the TV meteorologist in Rochester, New York, who lost his job.
I know what you're doing. You're looking for the right podcast. You're looking for something that's intriguing, interesting, and incredible. You're looking for something that gets you away from the politics and hot-button current affairs. You're looking for something else. Well, you've come to the right place. I'm PJ, and welcome to my corner of the world.
The Chicago Cubs are on the air.
For over 70 years, the Chicago Cubs had a home on WGN Channel 9. As decades and generations of fans went by, one constant was Chicago's very own dutifully carrying games from Wrigley Field every summer, starting with the leadoff man just before the 1:20 start time. The ease of access of Cubs games, along with exciting players like Ron Santo and Ernie Banks, built the team's fan base throughout the Windy City.
Number 500, a line drive shot into the seats and left, the ball tossed to the bullpen. Everybody on your feet, this is it.
In 1978, United Video Incorporated began to distribute WGN signal to cable providers throughout the United States, and superstation WGN was born. In turn, the Cubs became the second team in baseball to be broadcasted from coast to coast outside of network national broadcasts, the first being the Braves on Superstation WTBS in Atlanta.
You're watching Superstation WGN, your home for your favorite sports.
Then, in 1981, legendary broadcaster Harry Carey made the crosstown jump from the White Sox to the Cubs. And with the help of a couple of division-winning teams throughout the decade and the aforementioned Superstation, the Northsiders' popularity exploded nationwide. Though they wouldn't win a pennant or World Series until 2016, Cubs games turned into must-see TV. Kids would race home from school every day in hopes of catching Harry singing the 7th inning stretch, and fans would stay up well past midnight to watch games on the West Coast Strip, practices that continued long after Harry's death in 1998. Though networks like Fox and ESPN would pick up the rights to some baseball games, Superstation WGN would later become WGN America and drop all Chicago sports and eventually become News Nation, and the Cubs would enter additional carriage agreements with ABC7 and NBC Sports Chicago. Their affiliation with WGN was a partnership that everyone thought would last until the end of Major League Baseball, or the world itself. Then came Spring Training 2019. As Joe Madden and the Cubs reported to Mesa, Arizona to prepare for a run at another championship, team chairman Tom Ricketts announced his newest venture, the Marquee Sports Network, a cable channel devoted to all things Cubs baseball, which became the team's exclusive carrier at the start of Spring Training 2020. This was pitched as the Cubs fans' dream, an absolute mecca of a network, with pre- and post-game coverage, special series and exclusive content from Cubs productions, and archived games through many decades of baseball. Some radio ads called the network, quote, as dedicated to the fans as you. Tom Ricketts even told fans who booed mention of it at the 2020 Cubs convention that, quote, you won't be booing about the Marquee Network in a year, end quote.
So, even though it's 9 degrees, it doesn't bother me because baseball is very close. And we're also going to have a brand new home for the Cubs. It's going to be called the Marquee Sports Network. I didn't come up with that name. And we're going to have some new caretakers. Along with Len Casper and JD, we're going to have Chris Myers, Lou Piniella, Rick Sutcliffe, Mark DeRocha, and Mark Gray. So even though it's 9 degrees and feels like -3, my heart is warm.
To Ricketts' benefit, and after what he pulled off this season, I'm giving him very little benefit. When the network first launched, it followed through with its promise, with programs such as the docuseries Cubs 162, roundtable discussion show Cubs 360, and many games from the vault as part of Cubs Classics. But as the 2020 season eventually unfolded, Marquee began to wane from its pledge of great content for fans. Though some could be attributed as a safety measure in case of canceled games due to COVID-19, the network began picking up more non-Cubs sports programming, such as Follow the Money and Inside the Association, despite the network having more than enough content to fill schedules for months, maybe even years. Production quality of some programs dropped, though some instances couldn't be helped, such as former right-hander Ryan Dempster using a webcam for his show Off the Mound. And Cubs Classics, what I was looking forward to the most out of this, ended up being a bust in value. Not only were full innings of games cut for time, but everything that made a Cubs broadcast unique was removed. No leadoff man, no 10th inning show, no calls from WGN Radio, WBBM, or 670 The Score edited in national broadcast. Even the 7th inning stretch was cut. Here's a little bit of proof. Now, many fans may remember the Sandberg game on June 23, 1984, where Ryan Sandberg hit 2 game-tying home runs against the Cardinals in a 12-11 victory for the Cubs. That was NBC's Game of the Week, but Harry Carey had the call on WGN Radio. Here was Harry's call of Sandberg's second homer. Marquee instead used Bob Costas' call from the telecast. I mean, sure, it's still a good call, but Cubs fans deserve some local flavor. Here's Bob's call.
He hits it to deep left center. Look out! Do you believe it? It's gone!
The local and national disconnect can also be seen when Dave Owen got the game-winning hit in the bottom of the 11th. Bob Costas simply said, "That's it," when the ball bounced past first. But Harry... well, I think you can probably figure it out without me even playing anything, but here it is anyway. For a network that is devoted to a Chicago team, you should have a Chicago personality. Even regular season game broadcasts have turned out to be somewhat disappointing. Sure, Marquee made some good hires in ESPN announcer Boog Shambi and CBS announcer Beth Mowins, and they bring Pat Hughes on in case of scheduling conflicts, but they have lost some special aspects with the move off of local TV. Whereas WGN would feature contemporary music for fan cam montages and when going to breaks, with some songs actually picked out by the crew and the announcers, Marquee doesn't do that, despite the Cubs being able to afford royalties and other fees for usage. And instead of panning through Wrigley Field after a win and piping up the original recording of Steve Goodman's Go Cubs Go on broadcast, Boog almost immediately tosses the Cubs postgame live. Again, wasn't this network supposed to be for the fans? By the time the Cubs were eliminated from the 2020 postseason, management seemed to step away from Marquee, the same way they did the team after they won the World Series. Infomercials began airing during overnight hours, and completely different sports were covered. They even showed highlights of Bears games. Although the network had plenty of manpower to cover breaking news during the offseason, such as Kyle Schwarber and John Lester walking in free agency and Theo Epstein leaving the organization, Marquee elected to stay with their scheduled programming and stream their final press conferences online. And you want to know what was so important than key figures of a change of culture on the North Side leaving? The strongman competitions. Though Marquee has been able to slightly improve its coverage, it still wound up being a disappointment. It has become what fans feared, a poorly planned cash grab just so they wouldn't have to switch through multiple channels to find the game. But allow me to present this worst case scenario. What would happen to Cubs broadcasts should the Marquee Sports Network get shut down? Well, the front office cannot assume if they call WGN and NBC Sports Chicago, both will agree to carry Cubs games again in a snap. In the 2 years that have passed since the last games on these channels, both have undergone extensive changes. Channel 9 has expanded its news coverage and brought some personalities over from CLTV to host some new local programming, while NBC Sports Chicago has rebranded itself to be the exclusive home of the White Sox during the summer. But this isn't to say those channels can be completely ruled out. Yeah, WGN adds some new programs, but it's also canceled a couple too, like Chicago's Best. And their other offerings include Maury and Daily Mail TV during the day, and reruns of Friends and the Goldbergs overnights. NBC Sports Chicago also has a second channel, NBC Sports Chicago Plus, which serves as a backup in case two teams have games at the same exact time. From a scheduling standpoint alone, both can still carry Cubs games should the need arise. Should Marquee be shut down, the Cubs have a number of other options locally. However, broadcasts will need to be on a main channel that can be seen not only throughout the city of Chicago, the suburbs, and even beyond, but by the few who still rely on DTV alone. Carrying games on a very low power station or digital subchannel will guarantee low viewership. On my blog, which you can find at pjofradio.wordpress.com, shameless plug, I wrote about the CW's affiliate history in Chicago after it moved to WCIU, and I mentioned that for a network to work on any affiliate, the station must be able to accommodate it into its schedule. The same thing can be said for carrying Cubs games. If a station airs many popular or must-run programs, then it may not be the right fit for the team. With that said, CBS 2 and NBC5 can be ruled out, as they air shows like Young Sheldon, SWAT, Big Brother, Chicago Fire, Med and PD, The Voice, and Saturday Night Live. They also air other sports mainly on weekends, such as golf, tennis, and soccer. Though those could be moved to other owned channels like the CBS Sports Network and NBCSN, both networks hold broadcast rights to the NFL, which grants them little leeway for schedule changes and will conflict with the end of the Cubs' regular season. There would also be an additional mid-season conflict every 4 years, as NBC Universal also holds the rights to the Summer Olympics. In turn, Fox 32 can also be ruled out, as not only do they hold NFL rights, but rights to some MLB games as well, including the World Series. Of Chicago's Big Four affiliates, ABC7 seems to be the best fit at least for day games, should station management allow a new carriage agreement. The channel's daytime lineup of The View, General Hospital, Inside Edition, and Jeopardy seems to be the weakest, and can be moved to a later time slot or overnight without much backlash. Night games, however, are another story. If a popular show is on, the station has been known in the past to move the game elsewhere. Late in the 2019 season, Channel 7 bumped the game to WCIU to air Bachelor in Paradise. ABC also has the rights to some NBA games, including the finals, which, like the NFL, has little wiggle room when working with Cubs games. A number of channels that rely on syndicated shows would also work well for potential Cubs carriage agreements, a couple of them coming from Weigel Broadcasting. Both the U on Channel 48 and Meet TV on Channel 23 are mostly like this, save for some local high school and college sports in Svengoolie, so preemptions shouldn't cause much of an uproar. The CW26 is another possibility from Weigel, as WCIU previously broadcast Cubs games from WGN when they had programming conflicts with the CW. However, this could be a bit problematic, as both the WB and the CW had strict policies about preempting their programming, except in the case of breaking news. If these policies continue to be upheld on WCIU, the Cubs likely wouldn't want to go through the same issues again. Two more possible local candidates include Fox 32's sister station, My 50, which, like WCIU, also aired some Cubs games when CW was on Channel 9, and relies on mostly reruns, and Ion Television on Channel 38, which airs mainly crime show reruns and is just there. There's nothing really that special about Ion. Hey, it's perfect!
Speaking of never wrestling, check out Main Event on Ion Television.
You have to wonder why pro wrestling YouTuber Teaming Tubby Emu made so many jokes about WWE Main Event when it was on Ion. Was the show that bad? Or was it just on an obscure, mainly forgotten network? You probably forgot it existed until I brought it up. If the Cubs wanted to fall in line with most other teams in baseball and insist on joining a regional network, their best option would obviously be NBC Sports Chicago due to its coverage area. The only other closest network would be Valley Sports Midwest, but it covers just southern and western Illinois, and it already carries the Cardinals. I don't think their fans would be too pleased if their division rivals got any airtime. Should the need arise, the Cubs have plenty of local channels they can try to strike a deal with to carry their games. Yet there is hope that the Marquee Sports Network can return its promise to be a network for the fans. If they can do this, then perhaps even the most traditional lifelong fans can warm up to a new home for the team they love. I want to know what you thought of this episode. Please leave a comment on social media and share this and more episodes to come. In episode 3, I'll talk about what the future holds for Daniel Bryan in professional wrestling, the return of CM Punk to the Squared Circle, and their similar paths in WWE. Until then, I'm PJ, leaving you with this quote from Yankees catcher Yogi Berra. You can observe a lot by watching.